My name is Charles Booker, and I'm a detective at the Philadelphia Police Department. In little more than 10 years of service, I have seen almost everything that the wicked human being is capable of. Crimes that go from repulsive and horrifying to fascinating, or, at times, I have to admit, a mixture of those ingredients. Some months ago, I had to handle a case involving a young woman who was found dead, naked, inside of her bathtub. Alicia Nelson was 25 years old and lived alone in her apartment. Her neck had been slashed and she bled to death. Further analysis stated that she was slaughtered while still being outside of the bathtub, meaning her body was put there afterwards, most likely to prevent blood from flowing free, even finding its way out of the house. A single drop would be enough to capture a neighbor's attention. Nevertheless, a few days later after the tragedy, when Alicia Nelson became a ghost, literally and socially, the police was then warned by those close to the victim. Still, a few days is more than enough for a murderer to prepare their protective walls, if they are skilled enough. However, Alicia wasn't the only dead body inside of her apartment. Her dog had been found poisoned. Following standard procedure, it was time for me to interview the people who orbited around Alicia's life. Affections, colleagues from work, neighbors. For starters, these were the ones to talk to. First up was Jason Osborne. He was Alicia's boyfriend. He was a little older than her, 32 years of age to be exact. Jason looked disturbed, obviously, although not particularly devastated. He appeared like a child who sees his first goldfish floating dead inside of the aquarium. A child's first contact with the concept of death. This was not surprising. Jason appeared to me as very, to put in one word, basic. And according to him, information that later on I verified, he was only dating Alicia for 2 months. The next up was Arthur Nelson, the victim's brother. Unlike Jason, Arthur was crying the whole time when I conducted the interview with him. I asked Arthur, "Were you and Alicia close?" "Detective," he said, "I loved my sister. We were very close because our mother died when we were still children. It didn't take long for my father, our father, to send us living with an aunt from my mother's side. You can imagine the kind of brother and sister relationship we had. So please, Detective Booker, find who did this," the young man said to me, shaking and sobbing at the same time. I promised we would do our best. Alicia's father had died years ago, when she was still a teenager, so I guess he could be taken off the suspects list. I went to visit the victim's job, which was a local pet shop. I spoke to her colleagues and the shop's owner. None of them had any personal relationship with Alicia, rather than working together, of course. Alicia appeared to have been quite a shy young woman who was very fond of animals. It's not surprising in introverts, but she did have that classic best friend, Laura Pines. I went to talk to her. Laura was visibly sad, but in a numb way. I detected some confusion and fear as well. I asked Laura, "Were you and Alicia close?" "Yes," she said, "Detective Booker. We were best friends. In fact, I think it's fair to say I was her only friend. I'm still trying to accept this. It feels like I'm in a dream, she said. Was everything all right with Alicia's life? I asked. Huh? Yeah, I believe so, Laura answered, feeling uncomfortable as if I caught her by surprise. Are you sure? Alicia had no enemies, no inheritance to leave behind. She wasn't raped. She wasn't robbed. Is there anything you want to say, Laura? I insisted. I didn't kill my friend, detective, Laura shouted at me. I will soon find out about that. We will be speaking again soon. Have a good afternoon, Miss Pines. And remember, it's always a good idea to come clean with authorities, I said, departing the woman's house. After speaking with Alicia's neighbors, they informed me that her dog didn't bark during the night when the murder occurred. This confirmed my suspicions that the victim had been killed by someone she knew well. Maybe Alicia had a secret lover or some strange friends from the underground scene. This happens sometimes. Passive people tend to feel attracted to alpha males, who are often the bad boys. And I felt Laura Pines was hiding something. I didn't believe she was guilty, no, but she knew more than she was telling. A few days later, I was at home before going to bed. I decided to relax by drinking a scotch and reading the latest National Geographic magazine. Don't ask me why. Even a good detective needs some help now and then, or a sign. And that's what that magazine did for me. The next day, I was visiting Arthur Nelson. He lived in a small rented room. Arthur seemed like he was losing his mind due to grief. I confronted him. It's time to come clean with me, Arthur. Why did you kill your sister? What? He said. You're crazy, man. I loved her, he screamed. But he didn't deny it, and I screamed back, grabbing Arthur, looking him in his eyes. Tell me what happened, and you better tell the truth, or you will be spending the rest of your life in prison with some special friends of my choice. Soon after that, the young man, he cracked, fell to his knees, and he did confess. For a long time, Arthur Nelson had been in love with his own sister, romantically. Alicia probably knew or felt it somehow, but she thought it would just go away. But it didn't. Arthur, angered with the fact that his sister was finally dating someone, went to Alicia's house that evening. He declared himself to his own sister. Repulsed, she told Arthur to leave, and that he needed to seek some help. Therapy, of course. But Arthur, he didn't leave. Instead, he tried to force his sister to kiss him and to have sex with him. She refused and fought him back the best she could. And when Alicia tried to grab her phone to call for help, Arthur was just a little bit faster in grabbing a kitchen knife and stabbed his sister in the throat. Case closed. Later on, I learned that Laura Pines knew about Alicia's fears and suspicions regarding her younger brother. But Laura was afraid herself. That's why she didn't tell me anything. Oh, and how did the magazine help me? I guess that's a story for another time.